I'm building a beautiful off-grid modern house from scratch on top of 21.5 acres of bare mountainside land. It's a stunning view property in Morgan Hill, California that I've named Casaluna. I don't know nearly as much as I probably should, but what could possibly go wrong? You guys may remember from the last video that I wanted to call the well digging people to see if I could get on their list to get a well dug in the springtime. We'll know where the system goes and we can move on to the well problem, which is gonna take a while. The percolation tests are now done. We now know where the leach field is supposed to be, approximately, and that means that we have the ability to figure out where the well can be. So I got on the phone today with Gardino, and I was shocked at the answer that I got today. Wow.
Hello?
Hi there, it's Brian Wright calling. You and I have spoken once or twice. You and I have spoken once or twice about a property that I just bought in Morgan Hill. And last time we talked a couple of months ago, and you had mentioned you didn't want to come up till spring, but to call you back in a couple of months and get on your list for coming up whenever that is. I've had septic done. I have a designation for the leach field for septic. We've got all that finished, so I think we're ready to kind of understand where we can go for drilling, right? How do I go about doing that?
You're developing that site. You're not living up there currently, correct?
I'm not living up there currently. That is correct.
And you were coming in there, refresh my memory, you're on the left-hand side before the ridge, or were you on the ridge?
We're on the ridge.
And when do you usually go up there to visit the property? I like to go up there and kind of check it all out.
Well, I can go down there anytime. I mean, if you want to just, hey, whenever you're free.
Can you do, Friday morning about 11 o'clock?
This Friday morning at 11 o'clock? Yes, I can.
The 7th.
Right on, man. I appreciate that. All right, I'll see you on Friday, man. It's really cool. I'm actually really excited about that.
All right.
All right, man.
Get you all there. Thanks
again, Hog. I appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Friday couldn't come fast enough. Needless to say, I was pretty stoked that I could get such a fast response out of something that I thought was going to take months. Driving up the mountain that day, I had no idea what I was in for. Augie is a fourth-generation well driller, and I got an education in well science, geology, and just plain old experience on a mountainside that this guy has drilled over and over for different people over the course of decades. Strap in, he's full of information, and this is a big episode.
Where are you going to build?
Out here on the point.
And where did you perk out for your septic?
Right here. So the perk zones, there's one there. There's kind of this whole circle right here.
You own this hill up here too?
I do. This is going to be 3 acres of wine grapes right here.
All right.
So those posts up there,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the property line, but it runs across the hill to the back of the forest over there.
We're gonna make two recommendations. Is if you have your septic, your leach field going in here, we have to be 100 feet away.
Yeah.
So that's either gonna put us right out here by where our vehicles are parked, or that's gonna put you right up there on your hill. So if this is all ADUs and everything else, we'd want to come up here. So where's your house going? Right
House is going to be kind of like all through here.
I mean, me personally, I'd kind of look at just coming in and drilling anywhere along the fence line right here before it dips back down.
How far from the fence line do we have to be?
Personally, I try to stay 10 feet off, and eventually you're going to pump into storage tank, that kind of thing. So if you elect to put your storage tanks right here, you have room for them. You have the ability to cut a fire trail in there. You have the ability to, you know, put an access road running around your property.
Oh yeah.
It leaves you the ability to plant, you know, trees along your property line. So, you know, it gives you room to work. And we typically don't put the wells right on top of the property line.
Got it.
But a lot of time water wells are either at the front of the property,
Yep.
like where the road comes in, or along the side. Is that very rarely do we put them right in the middle because you're going to have septic and everything else. But
Right.
what we look at up here geologically is we're on this knoll right here. We're on stable geology. When we get back to the road, we're into the meat of the mountain. Okay.
Okay.
So what that means is that when we come up here and we start drilling, we pump air down our drill pipe. It comes out the drill bit. The air exits the borehole that we've just created, and it brings the cuttings to the surface.
I
So
see.
as we're drilling, we're removing the cuttings to the surface, and so when we encounter water, we can physically see it. Ideally, for water, what you want is you want like a sandstone or rudimentary green stones, blue stones, something that is fractured. The water can travel on the fractures. So typically when we're in the middle of the hill or on good geology, you'll get that. When you drill down the hill, you get this formation that's slid over time that becomes claystone. Water doesn't penetrate.
I just kept asking questions because I find it fascinating.
There is occasionally what we call a dry hole. Why is that? Well, if we look at the composition of the geology, we go, okay, we were in a shale or we were in a claystone or something like that. The water's not penetrating, the water's not traveling. And so a lot of times when you get into that formation, it doesn't hold, it doesn't regenerate. When the rains come, it doesn't repercolate. And then the other thing that we look at is that we have faulting through here, right? We have the Hayward Fault coming through here. And so this
Out this way.
this whole area is just basically a fault. And every time you see these little divots right here,
Like the valley between these two hills, you mean? Or
this little valley right here,
yeah.
this little valley right here,
Oh yeah.
they're all like, we call them just fractures. And so what happens is that fault is moving, and as it's moving, one side's good and one side's typically bad, depending on how that geology is folding over.
In terms of water presence,
Well,
or
Correct. And so if you have an active fault here, that fault's always moving, and it basically pushes the garbage to one side, and the good stuff stays here. When you're drilling, if you get into that good geology, you'll have water because the water can travel in it. The stuff that gets shifted to the side, that gets compressed, that gets compacted, water can't travel in it because it becomes too dense. So if for some reason you were to drill here and you did not get water right here, and you go, oh, this sucks, I'm the small percentile that's not going to get water
Yeah.
in my first round out of the barrel,
yeah.
then we're going to say, okay, it's garbage right here, but if we get over to that knoll right there, chances are it's going to be different because we have this
This
activity
little
between the two.
Remember when I said strap in? Augie was just getting going, but I was really enjoying the ride. I'm a curious guy. I don't know about any of this stuff.
Once we're set up and we start drilling, we average about 80 to 100 feet of penetration rate per hour. So by lunchtime, we're going to know whether or not we have water. When we're drilling, if we get down, let's say 300 feet, we're looking for multiple layers of water. So if we're drilling and it's dust and we just have a dust cloud coming up and then all of a sudden the dust disappears, we know that we have moisture. And then if we get down, let's say 120 feet, we see water, we can stop, we can physically measure it. Say, okay, we're down 120 feet, we have one source of water, it's 5 gallons a minute. Continue drilling, and if we get down 200 feet and we go, look it, there's more water, now we have 10 gallons a minute, we have 2 sources. Continue drilling.
Is that a situation where, like, let's say for argument's sake, you get a water hit at 100 and then another one at 200? When you say 2 water sources, you're saying the 100 foot is draining into the 200 foot. Those are multiplying? Is that what you're saying?
They're multiplying together. Is that you have one source of water coming into your well here, now you have another one down here. So
I got it. Okay.
Two
sources.
Ideally, in my perfect little world, I want to see 3 or 4, or what we would call the mother lode, where you hit a big pool of water. It's doing a few hundred gallons a minute. But the idea is if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 sources of water coming into your well, this top one could dry up during drought conditions or at the end of the summer. So now you're relying on numbers 2, 3, and 4. Now your neighbor here, he goes and drills a well right next door here. Theoretically, now you have sources 3 and 4. And if there's an earthquake and something shifts, now you have 4. So you want to hedge your bets and get as much water as you can, because once we're done constructing the well,
there's nothing else you can do. Yeah. You got to start with a new hole. Oh yeah. How does a well even work? I have no idea. But luckily,
once we're drilling, we attempt to drill this hole with air rotary. And then assuming we see water, assuming everything's good, what we do is we make sure our hole's clean. We pull all of our tooling out of the hole. We're going to install 5-inch PVC casing. Some of that casing's perforated, so that allows water to enter into the well.
Got it.
Perforations are roughly where we think we encountered water. The casing will go from the bottom up to the surface. And then once that casing's in the hole, we deposit sand and gravel. The sand and gravel goes between the casing and Mother Earth. That acts as a filter, so as water percolates from the earth, it goes through the sand and gravel into the well. So that's what we call the gravel pack envelope. The well does not have to be screened from top to bottom, because water will go into that screen and gravel and it'll percolate down and into a screen.
I gotcha.
Around the casing is a grout seal. That's the sanitary surface seal.
This is so nerdy and I'm loving it. I can't even believe it.
When we're constructing the well, the representative from the Santa Clara Valley Water District, we schedule an appointment with them. They come out. They witness us do the seal. That's the only inspection that you have on the well.
Is that like usually the same day, separate day?
Second day.
Second day.
So typically we'll come up, we'll drill, we'll set casing, we'll set gravel, the rig will go off, it's gone. Now you have a pipe coming out of the ground that's secured, and then the next day they come out, they do the sanitary surface seal. Once the sanitary surface seal is done, and everything sets up, we typically pour our concrete pad around the wellhead, and then we say, okay, we all saw X gallons a minute. We'll call it 10.
Right.
Okay, so when we were drilling, we all saw 10 gallons a minute. So now we have a well cased to 300 feet. We are going to put our test pump in the well. Our test pump is capable of pumping anywhere from 2 to 25 gallons per minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that pump in the well, and we're going to start pumping it, and we're going to fine tune that 10. Okay, so that 10 could end up being 12 or 13 gallons a minute. It could end up being 8 or 9 gallons a minute. But when we test pump it, we're doing several things. Number one, we're putting the pump down to the bottom of the well. So we're verifying that the construction of the well is sound. We can get a pump in and out.
Got it.
So we're doing that. Then the second part is we're verifying the water that we saw, that we see. So that we know it's wet. Now the third thing that we're going to do while we're test pumping that is we're going to have the laboratory state certified lab come out and pull a sample. And then at the same time, we're going to establish that this well can do 36, 7,200 gallons a minute. That's going to get you started on your building permit.
And still, there's a ton I don't know. The county and state mechanisms are baffling. those kind of integrations with the city and the state and those folks, is that something that you just sort of all handle in the background, or those things that I have to manage?
No, that's what we do.
That's part of your service.
Yes. When we issue the final paperwork, we're going to make a recommendation. We recommend this size pump, and it's placed at this depth. We're also documenting everything so that when you go down to the county and you say, hey county, I'd like to start on my building permits, they're gonna say, great, do you have your septic profile? You're gonna say, yes, I do. And they go, oh, did you get a well drilled? You're gonna say, yes, I did, here it is. And they're gonna say, did you get it tested? Yes, I did, here's the test report. And they're gonna say, okay, that's great, here, you're gonna pay these fees and these water clearance and everything else. You're gonna continue on your building permit.
Oh yeah, the building permit. How long does it take to drill a well anyway?
In an ideal little perfect world, it's 3 days. Come in, drill the test hole, set casing, come back in, seal the well, let things settle, and then days 2.5 to day 3, we test pump the well, we pour a concrete pad, we're in and out of it, you get an invoice. Now that water is at the laboratory, it's getting incubated, they're checking for water quality. It will take about 10 days to get that paperwork back from the lab. But when you're done, you will get one PDF from me that has the well testing data, the water quality analysis, the Department of Water Resources form, a diagram with notations on pump settings, and the permit. So that's your birth certificate for your well, and that goes with your property forever. You're gonna pump, now you have a well in, you pump from your well into a domestic holding tank.
What's the capacity of a domestic holding tank usually?
That needs to be a minimum of 3,000 gallons. And that is dictated, so environmental health, when you go to build your, the county of Santa Clara says, you need to pump from your well into a minimum of a 3,000 gallon tank.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, your well could do 1 million gallons a minute, you're still going into that 3,000 gallon tank.
The firewater tanks are something else entirely, but of course, Augie had a lot to say about that too.
You need one tank for your domestic use and a 5,000 gallons of water for your fire hydrant. Your fire water is totally separate. All it does is it sits dormant, waiting for a fire. So it's connected to your fire hydrant. You do not use that water daily to ensure that it's always full. The more structure you put on the site, the more fire protection tanks that they want. So if you put ADUs or whatnot here, they're probably going to require you have 2 or 3 5,000 gallon tanks.
So that the house is going to be probably around 3,600. The garage is going to be, I think it's something like 20 by 40 or something. So it's pretty big.
So you're going to need to plan for at least 2 5,000 gallon storage tanks.
That's kind of what I was thinking. What I wasn't planning on was the domestic one. So yeah, that's great. Great information.
You know, but if, like you said, if you have ADUs and everything else, then what you might want to look at is running one tank for all your domestic water, your house, your ATU, your ADUs. You can get that water pure, and then you go, okay, let's put a supplemental tank in for my landscape irrigation, grapes and whatnot, and then we can give them the dirty water that we don't have to treat. But up here, the water is generally pretty good. There's nothing that cannot be treated, and up here there's no gnarly treatment systems that are needed. It's not like San Benito County where we get into the arsenics and things like that.
You might think this is a long and rambling conversation, and you'd be right. But I assure you, this is just the highlights. He has a lot to say about a lot of things, but really what it comes down to is one thing. Augie, do you think we're going to get water on this property?
You know, by the numbers, just based on statistics, if we bring a rig right up here, we level out a little pad, doesn't take much, and we start drilling, chances are you're going to have water.
Woohoo! I mean, I know this doesn't guarantee anything, but the opinion of an expert who has drilled this particular ridge over and over gives me hope when he says stuff like this.
The good news is you'll get water here, more than likely on the first shot.
That's cool. So naturally, the next thing on my mind is, when can we do this? Let's do this. Let's do this.
I say, theoretically, we could be out here in April, but that could get bounced up as early as February. But on the other hand, if we have monsoons and La Nina all winter long and it doesn't dry up here until May or June, guess what?
Gotta wait till May or June.
Wait until May or June.
This is one of those things where I can't actually get the building permits started through whatever years long waiting process it'll take to get that done until I have this done. And this might actually turn out to be a long waiting process as well. Is that right?
Yeah, but I mean, we would rather have people prepared to wait a long time. I would rather have you prepared to wait until April and get you done in January. You say, hey, look, we have a window and everything's here up here.
And as if all that conversation weren't enough, on the way out, he hit on a subject that I've always been curious about.
We have these people that say, well, what do you think about witching? And then they try to get into,
That is a good question. What do you think about witching?
So I go with the science, okay?
Yeah.
So once again, if we look at the law of, in this particular area on this hill, we look at the law of averages, you're at like 89% chance to get water. So we could take my hat and throw it and drill right there, and the odds of getting water right there are as good as if you take your hat and throw it, just based on the geology being competent under the earth.
Knowing what you know.
Knowing what we know.
Holy crap. That was an amazing discussion. I learned so much that I never knew about wells. Super comprehensive. As you might expect, I'm a little worried. Just the cost of this thing. Rough estimate was something like $100K in the budget, which probably, he said, won't necessarily all get used. It's a big chunk of money for a well. And, obviously the fear of drilling and not hitting any water prevails. But with an 89% chance and his experience up on this ridge, I think that helps allay those fears quite a lot. I really, really love having you guys along this journey with us. I hope you're learning as much as I am, because for me, this is a brain-expanding enterprise. Every content creator on YouTube, of course, says, if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. And believe it or not, it really does help me out make better content, make more content. These episodes are time consuming. They're fun, of course, to make, but they do take a while and a lot of resources. So I would really appreciate any click support that you could give me. Sounds like we have good news ahead of us. Also sounds like we have a long wait ahead of us. I think you're gonna love the next episode. Me and my architectural designer, Todd Stimpson, are gonna come up here and we are gonna stake the crap out of this place with string and flags and lay out the entire site plan on site. But now I'd like to hear from you in the comments below. What do you think of this geology here? What do you think of the probability of hitting water here? Drop me a comment down below and let me know. This is Building the Moon House, and I'll catch you later.